like to call the Peters Township Planning Commission meeting to order. Roll call, Seth, please.
Mr. Magrino will not be here this evening. Mr. Cartaphillis?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Wiley?
Here.
Mr. Salepis?
Here.
Mrs. Corbel?
Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the April 14th regular meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any additional reports and correspondence, Seth?
No, none.
Any plats, subdivisions filed for review?
Yes. 4, Equine Estates, which is an extension of Elizabeth Drive over towards the Juniper Woods development. It's 3 or 4 lot development there, low density residential. 5 Farm Lane number 5, which you saw a recommendation for modification for earlier this year. It's an extension of 5 Farm Lane off Thompsonville Road. It's a 6 lot subdivision. The Frobe Farm simple subdivision. It's the Frobe Farm property on Frobe Road, just splitting that in half, prepping for future development submittals later down the road. And then the Woodbriar preliminary plan. It's a piece of property on Venetia Road, approximately 30-some acres for residential development.
Any changes to the agenda, Seth?
None.
Any audience comments on items not on the agenda? Okay, no old business. Moving on to new business. Planning Commission recommendation, the Crouch Keshke subdivision plan, Venetia Road.
This is for a lot line shift / consolidation plan along Venetia Road for Clinton Crouch and his neighbor. This initially came to staff as part of a building permit application for a garage that didn't comply with our setback requirements, and we were potentially going to do a variance, but ultimately a subdivision plan was the most prudent move forward here. Mr. Crouch, I think, has 2 or 3 properties along Venetia Road that he'll be consolidating and then doing a lot line shift with his neighbor in the center of the subdivision plan. This would be where the lot line shift takes place. And there's an existing lot line that runs relatively close to Mr. Crouch's house. So we'll be shifting that closely towards the center of the property. The reason there's a bit of a jog in the back of the property there is there's a creek that runs between the 2 properties, and that portion of the property in blue that juts into the red side is Mr. Crouch's property that he kind of maintains on that side of the creek, even though it used to be the neighbor's property. So just kind of cleaning that situation up. Staff is making a recommendation of approval, subject to the conditions listed in Ed's staff report.
Any audience comments on this plan?
No.
Any commissioner comments?
And we do have Mr. Clinton Crouch here this evening to answer any questions.
You want to come up to the issue? Sure. My name is Quentin Crouch. I live at 630 Venetia Road. Yeah, basically we're just moving the line to follow the creek line because my neighbor would own that central little, chunk of there, like, I cut the grass, don't care at all, and that's it. So that's pretty much it. And then it was split up in 2 lots. 2 lots had to pay 2 taxes. Everything was just take off from line number 1. More simple, but.
Can I get a motion for this Planning Commission recommendation?
I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend the Crouch Kesher plan of lots with the 4 items staff recommends.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next on the agenda is the Cowan Market revised site plan, 801 East McMurray Road.
You should all be relatively familiar with this property. This is the BP, now Cohen Station, located at the intersection of East McMurray Road, Beavat Road, Thompsonville. They are proposing a revised site plan, which would be an approval from the Township Planning Commission. As you can see on the screen here, I've highlighted the existing site plan as part of their land development submittal. It shows the existing gas station, the gas pumps, the convenience store, and the circulation throughout the site. As part of their proposed site plan, they're remilling, repaving the entire parking lot. doing about a 660 square foot addition off to the rear of the building, adding in a new dumpster enclosure, restriping the parking spaces, putting a retaining wall in at the southwest corner of the site, some landscaping throughout the site, some new lighting, a new sidewalk along East McMurray Road, crosswalks along East McMurray Road at the entrances to the site, and an overall facelift to the building. This is the landscape plan that shows the series of landscape plantings throughout the site, along with, at the top right corner of the screen, are some details and renderings of the proposed retaining wall. It's a dry stacked wall with a black aluminum fence along the top to aid in pedestrian protections there along that corner of the property, as well as some details about the dumpster enclosure, which were part of my recommendations in my staff report that they've already addressed. Along with, as I mentioned, the rest of the site, they're doing a facelift of the entire building, totally new building materials along all four sides, repainting of the existing brick, some new ephes, some new stone veneer along the base of the building, and then some accent colors and signage located on two sides of the building. Staff is making a recommendation that the revised site plan for Cohen Markets be approved, subject to the 18 conditions on my staff report, but a number of these have already been addressed. I'm not going to go through right now and try to identify which ones, but they did send us revised site plans today, so I can assure you some of these conditions have already been addressed, and we'll make sure that the rest of them are addressed as we finalize our internal review process. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission has this evening. We also have the Cohen Market representatives and their consulting engineers here as well.
Representatives, please come up. Thanks.
Good evening. My name's Chris Peters. I'm with MDM. Hi. Here representing Cohen Markets. Yeah, Seth covered it. It's a facelift. Got in the building, putting in a limited service kitchen at the back, and the facelift, the property improvement, the building improvement. We feel it meets the township comments, the plans that we just presented to you, and we respectfully request your approval this evening.
No, I noticed here, Seth, it says if required, traffic impact fee paid at the issue. Why wouldn't we just analyze that right now and figure out whether it's required?
We just have not yet sent that to our consulting traffic engineer to determine.
Because there is an additional size, right?
Yeah, it's a minor addition to the building, which could result in somewhat of a traffic impact fee. We've just not gone through that calculation process yet.
Is there a required number of parking spaces that they need to have?
Yeah, yep, and they meet that requirement right at, I believe it's 13 parking spaces, and they have 13 parking spaces.
So they meet all the requirements of the
Yep.
township.
Yep.
I do have a question.
Can you please come up and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Tim Fitzgerald. I live on Bebop Road. And so I just wanted to find out what the impact was. So it sounds like we were touched upon it a little bit, but the impact to Bebop Road and the other adjacent roads that are approaching that intersection.
For the traffic study?
I mean, there's been no traffic study done. The gas station, it's not that they're coming in with a brand new gas station that would warrant a traffic study. They're doing a small addition that wouldn't trigger a number of increased trips that would require a traffic study.
There, same number of pumps?
Is there any change to the traffic flow around that intersection and the widening of any of the roads as a result of the construction of the building?
No.
No?
No, we're maintaining the existing driveways, and we're at PennDOT's mercy when they come in and do the intersection improvements over the next year or so. The only addition to this building, it's functionally a 600 square foot limited service kitchen so that they can prepare some fresh chicken, fries, limited food service program.
In that, so is PennDOT considering doing some changes, upgrades to this particular interchange?
It's our understanding that intersection is on their improvement plan over the next year or two. I don't know if that's situations change. I see fresh survey markings out there that aren't ours. So
That's an accurate statement. PennDOT is heavily prepped for some serious improvements to this intersection. They've gone through their series of design changes. I believe the design has been finalized. I'm not sure right now. I think the let date might be later this year, so we could very well see construction happening next year.
But that's a PennDOT.
It's a PennDOT project.
jurisdictional issue,
PennDOT
right?
right-of-way, PennDOT project, PennDOT intersection.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Please come up, sir, and introduce yourself.
My name's Mike Reicheter. I live at 466 Thompsonville, across Thompsonville from the gas station. I didn't really hear that answered. We are concerned about the increase in traffic, because certainly you don't do a facelift of this size without attempting to increase traffic. It's a business. What do you I didn't hear the answer to that. Was there
As far as the traffic?
Yeah, was there you guys? What's the plan essentially? Right?
To maintain the existing driveways?
No, not the driveways. I mean, as far as increasing business and traffic, right?
One would hope if they do a 600 square foot addition to the building that there would be some additional traffic to warrant the improvements. But
Yeah.
it's functionally pass-by service. Folks are coming in to get fuel or stop to get convenience items, and their limited service kitchen is available to give them dinner for take-home.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is what, I can't remember your last name.
Peters.
Mr. Peters is getting at, they're not changing the use of the structure, and typically a change in use would do something like drive an analysis of traffic. It's still going to be a gas station, so there's an assumption of the traffic's going to be similar. There may be an increase of trips, and we've talked about the possible application of a traffic impact fee, which is a township, based on township study. But because they're not changing the use, there's not an assumption of a lot more trips that's going to be made in and out of there.
We're not increasing the number of pumps. That stays.
Yeah.
The functional internal space that's open to the public that they can use is going to remain about the same, because that addition is dedicated to the kitchen area and the new coolers that they're putting in. So from a square footage or pump standpoint, when you're doing a calculation for traffic,
I'm familiar
limited.
with how that's.
I'm just that's why I'm going
Is it
through.
by square footage? Do you say 600 square feet equals this amount more traffic? Is that
Yes, at a high level, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not 600 usable square feet for the customer.
No, but it's a kitchen that's serving, and you're hoping you put money into something, hoping that it generates a return.
That's
of
true.
course. So that's what I was.
I would hold this against if we were doing a new to industry building that would be like a 5,000 square foot sheets, if you will.
Yeah.
That one would require all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
We're not doing that here. This is just a limited
There's
expansion
still
of the
no
back.
seating, people don't need to go.
No seating. Yeah.
So
Grab and go.
Oh, I didn't mean to.
I'm sorry.
Let's cut you short. Ultimately, my concern comes with, and we've been in contact with, this is going on 2 years now, attempting to get some sort of screening from their parking lot to our house. We started with coming to the township when police had come to our house asking to park an unmarked car in our driveway because of drug activity, and then showed up, actually had come a couple weeks prior asking if we had seen vandalism that occurred in the back, or dumping, I forget what it was. But then we came to the township and we're like, look, we got small kids, our yard's out there, could we block this? Trash, headlights, there's a lot of issues with living next to a parking lot, particularly a gas station. It's just issues that come with that type of business. But we've been trying to get screening. We think that this is a perfect time for legitimate screening.
Where is your house in relation to this?
If you back up, we are on Thompsonville. That's our lot right there at the bottom.
Okay.
So
and
you're
our driveway.
466
Yes.
or 460? You're 466.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
We've done as much as we can on our property to block traffic. You do what you can.
Yeah.
Our driveway, unfortunately, is directly across. They're removing some of the parking spots that abut Thompsonville, which is an improvement. I'll show you. Cars park here. and our driveway is right here. This is our mailbox. Our driveway is right here. Cars park here, and headlights come into our bedroom window.
Yeah, I think
there
at
aren't
least
any
now they're
parking.
going to be parking
They're not.
headlights.
Well,
you know,
but you can't tell somebody they can't back into a spot, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like, so it's not just the headlights though, it's like, there's a reason why, and it's Cohen's policy that to be good neighbors. That's the exact, I think, word for word. And part of that is proper screening. We're just concerned with the, essentially, of this whole project, because it doesn't need a facelift, it needs to be painted, whatever, is that. And I don't know if a fence is going to stop that. Trash is another issue. I mean, it just piles up. I'm surprised one of our neighbors aren't here because we hear about the trash that comes down lives next door. Anyway, I was wondering what we can do to enhance that. It was like you're probably going to get 5 or 6 foot arbor vitae trees to plant along there in front of that retaining wall, and they'll take 6 years to grow in until they even begin to start covering that fence. And so we're still stuck with that open fence and none of the issues resolved that we've been trying to get resolved. And I think increasing traffic and having people sitting there in their cars eating,
Seth,
yeah.
would the picture you put up of the fence, it looked like there was a retaining wall with a railing type fence at the top.
Yeah.
Would a privacy fence, more solid type fence,
Yeah.
be a solution here?
That's what we're asking.
Potentially, the problem there is that privacy fences aren't permitted in front yards, per the township zoning ordinance.
Front yards.
Yeah.
Is this considered a front yard?
It would be, yeah. It's a corner lot, double front yards. And so they, per the township zoning ordinance, you can't do privacy style fences in front yards. And so aside from
Even on a commercial
Yeah.
piece of property?
walls and fences in the township ordinance, that specific section doesn't stipulate between residential or commercial.
It's silent.
It's silent, right? It's just township-wide.
Well, this fence here, I think, looks a lot nicer than a privacy fence.
Yeah, but it's not, it's porous to light and noise.
Are you guys at the same level?
Yeah,
as
and
across
there's a
the-
slight, just maybe a foot higher. It's 2 banks that come down onto Thompsonville, and there may be a foot. It's the perfect height to have somebody literally sitting there on your deck, level with your deck, and headlights in your house. I mean, it is it's tough.
So it's not the lighting from the building that you're concerned
No,
about,
they
it's
shut
the
down.
car lighting.
That was my other question. I'm glad you brought that up. And I'll try and, it is, the lights from the building are not really a concern. They're pointed at their down onto their parking lot, and they shut down at 10 o'clock. And typically, so overall, the lighting from them isn't the problem. It's cars parked in there, and when they're closed, it's not just when they're open. I mean, this is a parking lot that people roll around behind and all day and all night sit out in the back of this. Back and in the side of this park.
You probably get headlights when people just turn off of McMurray onto Thompsonville, making that corner.
No, we're above. So we're above that. We have privacy involved. I mean, who can say? We've had construction going on and with floodlights set up outside of our house for 3 years now. So I don't know if the headlights are doing it. But
Yeah, that was going to be my question, is don't you get a lot of headlights from just the traffic
no,
being in
we're
the
above.
corner?
Our corner on that corner is 5 or 6 feet above the road. So we don't.
So the only time it would be a hazard for you is if somebody backed into the parking space now, put into the parking lot.
Or just sat in the parking, you can. Yeah. It is the headlights, it's the noise, it's the trash, it's people doing whatever they do at gas stations, which it's not Cohen's fault, and making it nicer probably, who knows? But if 1 out of 100 people's a jerk, right? And you got 500 people coming, you got 5 people that you don't want sitting there staring at your house, I mean, I don't know how else. I think everybody would feel that way. And I think that it's reasonable. It does not obstruct views. It's above the road already. And as well, it would stop, up above where where people turn out. And there's plenty of, the daycare that was demolished had a privacy fence all the way around it, directly on East McMurray Road. That was, I think, dictated by the township, if I recall correctly, when they were becoming, so it can be done. That's what, it can be done.
I mean, I think you would appreciate the fact that you had to go through the variance process to
We
get
did.
a privacy fence
Yes.
along your front yard. So
Yes.
if that were to happen here, and they would have to go through that same process, and there's never a guarantee as to if that will happen or not.
No, but even when the township is attempting to, or recommending you be denied, you can still get your privacy fence, right?
That's true.
So, I would show up at that meeting as somebody that would be affected by the potential privacy, and I would come and I would say, I think it's a great idea. So you got it.
Is that correct, Seth, that the daycare had, I just can't remember, I live right on the street, but I just can't remember. And do you know how was that grandfathered in, or was that?
I do not recall.
Okay.
If it did have one, I'd have to go back and look at the record of that daycare. I'm really not sure.
I'm not questioning whether there is, I drive by there all the time as
No,
well.
it
And
did.
so I'm trying to remember, was that before, was that a change that that would have needed, or is it just too far back and you just don't know? Because I just thought it was there forever.
I'm really not
I'm just
sure.
trying, or it might have been because of the kids that it was required.
In likelihood,
Yes.
it was an existing
Yeah.
fence that would have predated that section of the township zoning ordinance.
Right, because obviously this is this is an allowable use here, it is what it is right now. They're coming into and making improvements on it, so it's within the township requirements right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would offer the plan that we do have proposed. What we're proposing to plant along Thompsonville, those arborvitae at 5 foot on center, it is going to tighten up. And I've got them in my yard. They're 12 or 14 feet high. They're going to block the headlights. It's not on day one.
No,
But
in 6 or 7 years. I've planted 30 in my yard, so I understand. I know. That's why
We did also provide down at the bottom where your driveway comes down, we did provide a feature tree across the street. And we did put the retaining wall in. It's a dry stack retaining wall that you would see in anybody's backyard. That coupled with the pedestrian safety fence, we felt that was a nod to the residential, if you will, because I have all of those features in my backyard. So over time, I think what will grow in there is going to meet your requirements without the variance, which was our intent when we put the plan together.
Are you guys raising that at all? Is the height going to change? Is that retaining wall going to raise the level so it's?
5 feet.
No, I know, but are you
But-
just cutting into the slope and putting 5 feet of retaining wall, or is it like higher up on the slope and it's raising the parking lot?
It is.
It is raising.
At grade, yeah.
it's at grade.
Yeah, it's at grade. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how else to say it, and I think it's a valid concern. And I think that.
So how many parking spaces are going to be along that side of the building once you're done?
Facing into the building, we have, 8?
But what I hear is that they're doing something that will block the light, and I know it's going to take time, but
It's going to take 6 years.
and it won't take variance. That's a roll of the dice. I get it. It probably won't be 6 years, but they can only plant trees that are they can't plant a 60-foot tree. They have to plant something that can start growing, and there's a growth season and stuff like that. And if any of those trees, part of the requirement is that if they don't take within a year, that they have to replace them. So it'll be a positive step.
And we can't require them to go get a variance. You see what I mean? Like, we can't require them to go get a variance.
It's
When
part
they're
of a-
income- that's
Yeah.
because a variance has other legal requirements to it. So as a planning commission, when they've met, some of these other requirements here, we can't require them to go get something that they're not otherwise required to do. Just from like a legal perspective, that's not something within our purview unless one of my.
And what if those trees were up top?
I don't disagree with it at all. I don't see any safety issue.
Come on up, please.
Am I able to?
Come on up.
Yeah.
My name's Elizabeth Reichner. I live at 466 Thompsonville Road. I just, I understand the trees and, you know, we understand all that, and we have these conversations with Cohen and the township. And my main concern is that people, I mean, we have videos, we have pictures. People sit there. It doesn't matter. They're not necessarily in a parking spot. They sit there. They're at the level of our driveway. We have small kids. We're out there on a regular basis. We've had cops come to our house saying, there's drug activity back here. Nobody's policing back there. I mean, unless you have a cop car sitting back there. I have had to call 911 when suspicious activity has been back there because the police asked me to. It's very upsetting to live and feel so uncomfortable in your own home and have, obviously this is a business. They're trying to bring more people there, more trips. It's a place where people stop and, hey, we're stopping at the BP and there's drug activity back there. And that is my concern. So,
do we think maybe, and explain this to me, like some kind of camera requirements? Have we ever done that? Especially, has there been any, hearing from these folks, it sounds like it's a problem as far as the drug activity and whatnot. Is there
I've not,
anything that the chief of police have ever said to the...
I've not had dialogue with anybody from our police department. I don't believe Ed has either in regard to this particular property, at least with us directly.
I just didn't know.
I could be.
I'm sure they don't.
We're not
At least me in
challenging what you
particular.
have, ma'am. We're just asking what
I'm
he's
sorry.
had the
I'm just,
conversation
this is
with. We're not
just, it's a
challenging.
very
You have to understand that we have nothing to do with public safety.
Yeah, that was we bring it up. We bring it up because it illustrates like what we're living.
And I totally understand, like where you all are coming from. I mean, and I think this is a great change for this property. I don't know how long you've lived there.
Since 2016.
Yeah, I've lived in it here since 2010, and this has always been a BP.
Yeah, I think we all recognize that this site is in need of attention.
Yeah, no,
This is
we
a-
kind of we agree with that.
This is
We're
a
not
significant
denying that.
improvement.
But we're saying that when you're doing that, because that's bringing more people, and if 1 out of 100 to like because and more trash, like now you got like food coming out.
But I don't think you're giving Cohen the opportunity to develop their property in the right way and manage their business in the right way. Once this site sees this facelift and this overall improvement, I have confidence that we're going to see a dramatic improvement to the overall property and the activity that takes place there. Now, after the property is developed, if we continue to have light issues, if we have noise violation issues, that would be the time for us to address
Yeah, that's
those.
not the time. We've been trying to talk for I mean, I have emails dating back for at least 2 years of trying to talk to the township, to trying
We
to talk
went
to
and asked Cohen to put up
And
screening,
we've
and
been
screening
blown
said,
off,
and Cohen said, sure, we'll put up some shrubs. And we waited 6 months, a year, and we said, hey, we haven't heard anything, and nothing's happened. And the township said they were going to, which was, they were being, they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to, which was awesome. They went and talked, but nothing got done. So if there's going to be a point where we say, okay, we're going to, this needs to be taken, this is it. Because like outside of that, we're back in the no man's land of just emails that go to somebody who goes, okay, and
Well,
so-
can I ask Mr. Peters something? Mr. Peters, what is the security for the building anticipated to be?
I don't have that specific answer.
You know what that is?
Yeah,
What
security.
system are we using?
Will you have any, are you going to
we
put in
use it.
cameras and security and things like that?
Can you come up and introduce yourself? Sure.
Yeah, my name is Andy McElvain. I'm the president and one of the owners of Cohen Markets. So, and we have received our neighbors' emails, and we have responded. But the reality is, we've been planning on this for over a year and a half, and then the whole PennDOT thing as well. So, to put something up, to rip it all back out, this is the time for us. This is for us to do that. This is the time to put in a plan that's going to work. It's going to be a much improved site. We use security systems, barriers. The references to illicit activity, that may have been before we took this site over. I don't know. I haven't heard that part. I mean, you mentioned it to us.
Yeah.
But we'll have camera systems 360 degrees all around the building.
Okay, so you will have. these.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's not a matter of us.
I would direct you to sites
Ten
like our South Park site. We're redoing a site right now, a brand new site in Imperial right now. So we're putting we will put a lot of effort into this. This is an important site in the sense that it needs it. We all agree it needs a major uplift. Will there be increased business? There may be. I'm sure that's part of the goal, but it has to be done the right way, and we do want to be good neighbors. And it's very important to Cohen. We've been around since 1923. For us to not do that, we wouldn't be here.
Right,
So-
and that's why I asked that specific question, because if one of the issues is knowing what's going on at the site, right? And then if there's going to be security and
we
things
have
like that.
We have a DTIQ system that's
So
also
then that
it's a
will
constant
address
monitor, and we
that.
use
You're not going to
barrier
get a
security
guaranteed
system.
result right away.
no.
But there is security, so that should be an
That
improvement.
is after the fact. That's if something happens.
I guess if
you know.
something's, I suppose to your concern, people are people. I understand
Yeah.
that. But if we put in processes and systems in place, proper lighting, it's a well-maintained, the right team working the people, it basically becomes like that activity is not welcome here. In the sense that that's what happens at our
If
other
it's known
schools.
that is a place that people.
If it's a rundown, dark, nothing's going on there, that's when those types of, unfortunately, some of those activities happen.
Yeah,
But-
and I think the thing that I'm at least kind of trying to talk about is that the place itself isn't allowed use there, right? So
Yeah.
it's going to be there, right?
No.
And they're making the improvements that they are. And I understand that there's some that you would like to be made that maybe, that from our perspective, like I said, we can't require a variance.
Can we move the trees?
But what I'm saying is that from the one question, I was just trying to address one of your concerns is that knowing that they are going to have the security system in, while it might not solve the problems right away, if kids know or people know that there's security and then you call the police, then you got, people know that's not the place to sit. They find someplace else to sit, right? And I know it's not going to solve all of your problems, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that there's, and so that's, I think, why there's all these conditions to this. But we can't require them to do something that the township ordinance does not require them to hear. A variance specifically says you can't do without a variance. And so we can't go back and require them to get something like that.
So can we, but when you can require certain landscaping, you can make requirements on that, right?
And they've met those requirements
so-
with the site plan.
Right, but I'm asking for something different than that, which is, can we put the arborvitae up at the level of the parking lot where it would immediately block instead of in 10 years when the large part of the tree finally makes its way up? If those were sitting at the top behind that porous fence, that would immediately, and then within 3 years, the base of those trees would be large enough to, like that at least would, the trees at the bottom, I've watched, we planted some when we first moved in on the corner, and they finally got to the point where they might be making, they're 10 feet tall. The top 4 feet is this big around. It takes a long time for those to really actually fill in. It is not, it will be gone before that, So if we move trees to the top of that and you allot for, 5 feet of space there, that would certainly be a major improvement if we're not going to go the route of saying it needs to be a privacy fence,
Can you see the picture again with the...
Is the requirement that the base of that wall be buffered?
No. There is a buffer requirement along that property line. Without referencing the section and looking at it right now, I do not think that there is any stipulation as to which side of the retaining wall it has to be on.
So if we push the retaining wall towards the road,
Towards Thompsonville and put those plantings on the other side of it.
and we're still in line with this.
If we're still maintaining our less than 6 feet height requirements on the retaining wall, I think we would be in a good position.
Just one.
Wait, can we let him just respond to that?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Pierce,
No,
because
I'm
I think they're trying to
I'm
talk through and think
Yeah.
through some things, so let's let them do that.
Trying to think through the
Right,
impacts.
right.
We don't have room in there now. I need the fence and the guide rail for safety.
I guess my concern, Chris, is that pushes it pretty close to the property line.
It does. Which, I like that. I like having that space in the
That
front.
separation.
I did. The spot where, I need to look at the grade. You don't by chance have a grading plan in there. It shouldn't be doing that.
Need every foot they can.
But
This is Thompsonville here.
Rick, I'm sort of relative to your home. Right now, you're saying
They
the
can't make it.
cars
They need
going
every
around
inch
the
they
back of the
can.
building today,
Big spots. This, on this.
that's coming through right here.
They're gonna render
These cars, the cars coming through today or aimed right into your...
what's there now.
Yeah, they sit here. Now, we're not necessarily in a parking spot. There's some parking spots here.
Well, they can't be
They sit
moved this
here,
way,
here,
'cause they
here.
need
They
to
sit
be
wherever.
back out.
They just pull over.
And I get gas there, so I know what you're...
Yeah.
I've seen what you're seeing.
Like, we're not trying to call, like, we feel like any reasonable adult would
Not want that.
Yeah, wouldn't necessarily.
And where we're 4 and 5 feet high, that's where the, right back through here, that's where the mailbox for preference is at.
Our mailbox is right here. It's his mailbox right here.
Okay. So your driveway's right here?
Yep.
It's directly across from the mailbox.
So directly across, okay, so where you're going to get lights now is when cars are sweeping around the building here. So that's downhill from Romeo.
Or parts in,
If they do happen to back into the spaces, that's true. The best I can offer tonight is that I can look at this and talk with Colin. And give it a good faith effort to see what we can do to.
Yeah, we actually have a picture that this gentleman found for us of the daycare, so you can see that. And then also too, obviously it must have had to be a variance, but the property that's there now, they have privacy fence all along.
back behind the setback.
Maybe it is behind the setback. I don't know.
Looks like it goes close to the road.
But they're a
that's-
corner,
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just saying.
It's not that front.
Yeah.
So the daycare, if I recall from speaking with Ed, meeting with Ed a while ago, was that the daycare was mandated to have that fence when they were becoming a daycare. Probably because of the kids, but either way, I think what I'm saying is, like, at some point, like, how does that happen?
That happened then because that requirement may not have been in the zoning ordinance when the daycare was built.
So like 20 years ago, there might have
Probably
been
more
no
than that.
fence, you're saying? There might have been.
It's old.
Yeah, because just as I've lived here since 2002, and that daycare was there, so that daycare preceded me
20
coming.
years.
So it was 30 years.
So even that, you're saying back then, there might not have been zoning code that said you can't have a fence in the front yard?
A privacy style fence in the front yard.
Privacy style.
And it's forward of the front setback line, which would be the case here with Cohen.
And for the daycare, there might have been in the ordinance something that said that any daycares have to have privacy fences, and then that would have been incorporated. So it's all based upon what the ordinance says, and that's what we follow by, is whatever that ordinance says. So whatever happened with the daycare would have been based upon what those requirements were probably 30-some years ago. Yeah, 30 years ago.
Seth, this planning commission recommendation, isn't this the final stop for this?
Yes, it is.
Can I ask you?
Sure, please, introduce yourself.
My name's Audrey Fitzgerald. I live at 948 Beavat Road. I've lived there my entire life. My question was, if this is approved, is that contingent upon the PennDOT changing that intersection, or are they doing that no matter what?
This is approved as is. This has nothing to do with PennDOT.
So
PennDOT can change this. They can alter, they can file eminent domain proceedings and take a part of their land. We
okay.
don't know.
So PennDOT's going to do that with the intersection no matter what. We don't
Correct.
know.
Oh, yes.
They have to
This
do
is
that.
separate and distinct.
Totally separate.
Totally separate.
Okay. That's what I want to know. Okay.
So, Tim Fitzgerald, so to clarify, so this approval is not contingent upon any activity that PennDOT would or would not
That is correct.
proceed with, okay. My next question is sort of related back to their concerns. So what are the typical hours for the other Cohens that are similar to this?
What are the typical hours? They
Yeah.
are 5 to 10.
Okay, so do they close at 10 o'clock? I'm just wondering about this lighting.
Some
gonna be
some
on?
even close at 9, but 10 o'clock is our
Okay.
typical
I'm
hour.
just curious as far as lighting, is it going to be lit all evening, like 7 by 24? Or
No, it'll be, we'll have a lighting plan, but it'll be directed down towards the light. I think they leave some on for security.
I think they shut them all off now, which is
Yeah.
This is an old site.
Okay.
But it'll be.
Yeah, I'm just sort of curious to think about this, their security
No, I'm
concerns. I was thinking, okay, it's going to be lit or
we're-
not lit, right?
I'm very respectful of that.
right?
We understand.
Yeah, okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, in regard to this retaining wall and the landscaping, its proximity to the retaining wall, you know, from a staff perspective, if we can put the retaining wall in a location and the landscaping behind it in a manner that complies with all the township zoning ordinances, then obviously I have no issue with it. But I guess my concern is that if we leave tonight trying to force that to happen, but it puts them in a situation where they're non-compliant with other sections of the zoning ordinance, that might not be a possibility. So I'm trying to rack my brain to think about how we could try to address these concerns while also ensuring that Cohen's site plan approval isn't predicated on them going outside of the township zoning ordinance.
Right, right.
Would it be fair to say that some of their consideration to try and improve upon what's showing here tonight?
Yeah, I mean, a
will be
good faith,
made,
a
but
good faith
not
attempt. Yeah.
For it, not make it a condition per se, but make it a best effort basis.
Yeah, because, and truthfully, they meet their buffer requirements now. You know, they've done what the zoning ordinance requires them to do in terms of a buffer between them and the right-of-way. So I don't know how we can stipulate where those landscaping plantings are in relation to the wall. I think that Chris and Cohen's probably willing to accommodate as best as they can, but again,
Without putting
we
that
can't
in
force
place.
them to do something that they can't do.
I'm just looking for any of these provisions in here, Seth, 1 through 18, that talks about the landscaping and things like that we could just put in there that, you know, Cohen shall revisit, just use the word revisit, buffering issues or buffering.
Well, I mean, the only-
Number 13, 13 would be the,
If we were to give it consideration and then provide a response to the township
Yeah.
in writing with our next set of plans, would that be satisfactory?
I'm saying something that just lets everybody know that you're going to revisit it and you're going to
Yep.
look at it and see, because like you said, you can't, off the top of your head, make a call on this right now.
We'd probably have to add an entirely new condition because the landscaping section of the site plan met my requirements, so there was no additional commentary on it in my staff report. The only thing I needed from them was additional details on the actual retaining wall and what it was going to look like. The landscaping was fine, and 13 was there because I wanted them to replicate that elsewhere on the site because I liked that landscaping configuration.
Right,
So
right.
we'd probably have to add another new condition, number 19, something along the lines of, you know, the Cohen and their consulting engineers revisit the retaining wall and landscaping at the southwest corner and try to accommodate a scenario which blocks as much light from possible, bleeding onto adjacent properties. I'm not sure how you would want to word that.
Or how about something like Cohen shall revisit screening and landscaping along Thompsonville Road to assess other options with township staff. It doesn't, you don't need to, that way then we know what we're talking about here, something like that. I'm happy to.
Let me ask you, it may be a little redundant. Would it be possible to add some of these trees, keep them where they're in front, like in front of the, next to the road, but a couple behind it as well?
I don't
Like
have.
to do both, not enough room?
I considered that. I don't have enough room.
Okay.
I don't, we're tight. We're tight. We have in addition to the safety fence, we also
Yeah.
have guide rail up there, and with all of that, I don't think we could
That way
get
you're
anything to
looking on
grow.
one side, just add some on the one corner,
Yeah.
a little more.
Yeah.
also enough driving space.
Yeah, it's real tight on the drive out
It
there.
is.
They've got the
Yeah.
guide rail, you've got
Well,
the
I think
fence.
We are tight. We're already tight. We're as tight as I would take
If
it.
you look at the original plan, I mean, they have all these parking spaces face right at Thompsonville. You guys are eliminating all of that.
Correct.
They don't have a retaining wall there. That's the difference. You
Yeah.
go all the way to the road.
Yeah.
This is going to take up space.
But this is such a nice upgrade.
Yeah.
Is there, I mean, and it won't, I'm not saying that this would solve all the issues, but are there simple things like, you know, putting signs that says head-in parking only, you know, things like that, putting up the signs? Yeah, I mean, and again, I know it doesn't solve every issue, but if it keeps one person from backing in versus, you know, going the other way, We just add signage that requires that and, directional signage. I don't know where, like where do you have like your handicap parking and whatnot? Can we designate those spots potentially that are right there in that, but as like the handicap parking, so that you have, if you're designating somewhere your handicap parking, use those spots that are right there, because then, again, won't resolve the issue, but less people will park there, and
Yeah.
and those will be saved for handicap parking spaces. Is that a possibility?
They're required one handicap space, and they've designated on the site.
Okay.
We
in
do
relation
One of those?
to the loading area.
We have grade limitations. We have grade limitations on it. There's a lot of slope there.
Yeah.
That's where I could get an accessible spot
Okay,
close to a door.
I was just trying to think out loud.
No, it's fair. It's a fair consideration. We did actually look at the front corner of the building, but with the concrete pad there for the fuel, it doesn't
It just
work.
doesn't work. Okay.
But we could put signage there, and it sounds like they're willing to put in head-in parking only or something like that. Just a couple little things on the building, head-in parking only.
And I think you would really only need those on those 8 parking spaces on the south side of the building.
Correct. I don't think.
I have no issue with that.
you need to put it on just
a couple.
one or two.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
two.
Junk up the building otherwise.
Yeah.
I think it's an upgrade all the way across, so.
So that's
Mr. Peters, are there any other types of tree, the different type of trees that you were considering putting there? Are these the best option, do you think?
The best option.
Okay.
We could
Just
put
as
different
far as,
things.
like-
These things are bulletproof. If anything's going to grow there and mature and get high enough to screen it, it's going to be these. This is the best option.
How many new freestanding light poles are there added to the site?
3?
3 or 4?
3. I believe we have 3. We have one existing at the driveway on Thompsonville that's going to remain. We have one immediately behind the building, one over by the trash corral, and another one along Thompsonville facing the building. And those are all with the shielding to meet ordinance
So
requirements.
you're tripling the amount of light that is there to light the whole place.
Considerably, yes.
Okay.
that's not going to be shining all night, though, right? Crazy amounts of.
Just
Well, yeah,
during
yeah.
business hours, and it is shielded to be contained within the
But
site.
you want to like I said, you guys want it lit up so that
Yeah.
it's not a dark place for people to go, but you don't want it so lit up so that it shines into your house. I get it. Just looking to find that compromise, right?
And we have conditions in
And
my
your
recommendation that address that. They can't have direct shining and/or glare at adjacent properties. And we always retain a condition on commercial site plans. If there's any lighting issues later on, we retain the right to address those. So we can deal with that with Cohen in the future. And that's something we've done for years, and we always have good success with that.
And there are others lighting and noise requirements
Yeah.
just set by the township that are there, you know what I mean, that are in place, and they would be required to follow those.
I do agree, like, if it has to be shrubs, the arborvitae are hands down the quickest, best growing.
Okay.
But the last concern is the trash. You could drive down, I say, pick it up once a week. We get hit hard. Dom DeFranco, if he was a little more spry, my neighbor would be down here telling you about the trash that accumulates. Is there a plan to deal with that maybe a little bit?
Are we talking about littering, or are we talking about actual trash from the operation?
Yeah, right.
We are putting up a new trash corral.
Receipts, we get gas receipts in our yards and stuff,
Yeah, he's talking about
a significant amount of stuff
Okay.
that flows down over the.
Are the dumpsters and whatnot bigger?
I think a lot of
Dumpsters,
that.
it is bigger.
Maybe it's the old operator, because when you'd go get gas there before, the trash cans would just be overflowed.
Yeah.
There was a lack of maintenance, a lack of a proper, if a good operator comes in, and, it's something we could cite them for.
So
If you're not maintaining your trash properly, and those are things that just happen as a good operator. It's not here for the planning commission to say. It's up to how they operate their business and whether they make sure they clean up after the customers and whatnot.
And Mr. Peters did just say that the dumpster, I think that's going to go in here is going to be larger,
It's-
so there'll be more
yeah.
capacity. Because obviously things go on the ground when the things
It'll
are
also
filled.
be protected
Oh,
and
yeah.
covered.
Screened, buffered,
I did-
privacy-style fence around the lands, or the dumpster enclosure.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I did want to ask. The township detail is looking for cedar. They would like to use hardy plank, if that's okay.
I think that'd be perfectly fine.
Okay.
More resilient in the long
Yes.
term.
Yeah, right. Low maintenance, long term. Yeah.
So if there's more capacity to remove the trash, then it's a matter of.
There is.
really-
Correct. I don't think there's a dumpster on closure. It's not shown in the existing conditions plan. I know we've had issues with trash pickup at that site in the past, but again, I think as part of this holistic improvement to the site and the new operator, it's going to be a dramatic change for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll enhance the whole look and feel. It should. It needs it overall.
Yeah, definitely.
Big time.
So did we add
We added
condition number 19?
We added 19 and 20
What's 20?
head-in parking signs.
Okay.
Just for clarification, what was the one about what was written about
About the landscaping.
Yeah.
Rochelle, correct me if I got it wrong from you, but Cohen shall address or
I said I think they
revisit screening and landscaping along Thompsonville Road in future discussions with township staff.
Okay. How do I follow up on this?
Why don't you give them some time to,
Yeah.
No.
I will.
Absolutely.
We have all your
Stay in the loop.
we have all your information. I know that we do from previous
Yeah.
dealings, so I'll make sure that you're in the loop on what our thoughts are and our game plan moving forward.
If it does bring you any comfort, I'm a township resident. I get my gas there.
Yeah.
I drive by your house every week.
Awesome.
I am going to make a good faith effort to
I
work.
appreciate
If it works, I'll do it. If it doesn't, I can't. We meet, because we do meet requirements. They're our client. They have the right to do this. I will take a good faith effort to get it done for you if I can.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Any other audience comments? Hearing none, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the Cohen Market revised site plan 801 Eastern Prairie Road, subject to, the 18 conditions in the planning staff memo, plus the 2 additional conditions as detailed by Mr. Seth Coons this evening.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Next on the agenda is Planning Commission recommendation for the Lutz Farms final plan.
Give them a second to filter out.
Thank you.
Back in January of 2021, Planning Commission reviewed and provided a recommendation of approval for the Lutz Farms preliminary plan, which is a 26-acre parcel of land along both sides of Thomas Road, slated for a 43-lot single-family subdivision. That was subsequently approved by Township Council on March 3rd of 2021, and since then, they've gone through the revisions to the site plan to get us to a final plan version, and they've acquired third-party permits. They've worked through a number of issues, and we've got ourselves in a pretty good position here with the final plan. Just a refresher, again, this is a 26-acre parcel along both sides of Thomas Road, 43-lot subdivision to be developed, and I believe built by Mr. Taylor, Ted Taylor, who's here this evening. It requires a public sanitary sewer extension along Thomas Road through a number of properties that have required him to obtain easements, and to the best of my knowledge, I think most of those easements have been obtained as of today. Ultimately, that would have to be finalized and approved by the Peters Township Sanitary Authority. Along the northern side of, I guess that would be the western side of Thomas Road, we've got 2 cul-de-sacs that service most of the development, and then along the eastern side of Thomas Road, 2 other cul-de-sacs with 1 temporary cul-de-sac providing us access to the adjacent property for future potential development. Staff is providing a recommendation of approval for the Lutz Farm final plan, and this is a recommendation from Planning Commission that will go to council, subject to the 12 conditions listed in my May 6th staff report. These conditions require that they receive final plan approval from Gateway Engineers, the township consulting engineers, before we put it on a township council agenda, which will ultimately require most of these, if not all of these conditions, to be addressed by that point. Some other ones that might be outstanding at the end of all would be the site plan improvement agreement and those types of minor things. But as it stands today, they have received a review letter from Gateway Engineers, and the plan is in pretty good shape. I think a lot of the outstanding issues are mostly housekeeping things, and we're confident in how this plan has progressed, and it looks good now. I'm happy to answer any questions that the Planning Commission has. Josh is here from Gateway
This
Engineers.
is probably because we're on the final plan, but this is Thomas Road is a township road, right?
State Road.
Did they run a traffic study on the impact on Thomas and the interchange
number
there?
of-
I mean, that interchange is already failing, even with the improvements they've made. The amount of additional traffic coming down this road there just keeps on building up and building.
Thomas and,
I'm sorry, what would it be, Thomas and McMurray?
so the number of trips generated from this site would not require a traditional traffic impact study. They just don't trigger that level of trips. Our consulting traffic engineers looked at this. I don't think he has any concerns about that particular intersection in regard to this development. Now, if we saw bigger development with this connecting property, that could potentially trigger a situation where improvements would be
And we're not
required.
putting, that doesn't justify.
No, that would not be signalized as part of this
I mean,
development.
my concern is just the amount going on Thomas Road. It's already backing up so poorly. It's getting worse and worse. And I know we tried doing some minor tweaks to that.
Yeah, we improved the
interchange,
signal timing here.
And
and-
still struggling with it. We're just keep on pouring more and more traffic on that road.
We will certainly keep an eye on that intersection, and if that's something that,
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I know people like to have that parking lot there for the trail, but
yeah.
to me, that almost needs to go.
Okay.
Just the amount of traffic. Just
Is
sit there.
PennDOT still, is it a traffic light at the intersection of Thomas and
Yeah,
McMurray?
the one time they were talking about traffic light there, and I don't know what happened.
I don't,
We
I thought it
actually
got
used-
pushed back,
Yeah.
delayed,
Yeah.
because I'm not sure what the order is.
that would be so close to another
But there
light.
was one time a
Yeah.
proposal to put traffic.
It was that, the traffic light there, the roundabout at Bebout.
Yeah, that was on
Valley Brook,
the
It
different,
was one
And then
on the tip.
yeah.
modification of the East McMurray, Thompsonville, Bebout, putting the turning lanes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be the first I've heard of that. So I'd have to go back and.
And I
look
know
into
they did
that.
some minor improvements by the
We
straight.
widened it out and changed the timing here at the intersection.
Still problematic.
Moving into the future, like I said, this western side of the property.
I know this is just 40 homes, but if that road keeps on getting, bigger and more traffic.
And it's a cumulative effect. So if we get a development later on that requires a full-blown study and they look at that intersection and say, yeah, this needs attention, that would be the opportunity
And
for us
that's
to
all
address.
PennDOT.
Yeah, it would be PennDOT ultimately. We'd have to work with PennDOT on an improvement. We'd have a developer come in and contribute towards that, which isn't the first time that's ever happened. And we'd have to keep an eye on that intersection. And if it gets slated for improvement as part of the township's capital improvement program, then that may be something that needs to be addressed in the future.
So how long has the traffic impact fee been $1,500 per lot?
It's actually $15.25 now. We just raised it, but they were in for preliminary plan before we raised it, so they're allowed to maintain that old fee.
And these are only 0.25 acre lots here around.
We have some smaller lots, and then one large lot at the end of the cul-de-sac at the west end, and then a separate lot with direct access to Thomas Road.
These
which would
smaller
require-
homes here.
$500,000.
I mean, I don't want to say the houses are small. They're smaller lots. They may still be good-sized homes on smaller lots. Now, they have lot coverage requirements that they need to maintain and those types of things. And I can let the consulting engineer and Mr. Taylor talk about the actual size of
Sure.
the homes. If you can see the red outlines here on the screen, I mean, those are prospective house footprints. To me, they're still pretty good-sized homes.
Can you come up and talk about the houses in the plant?
Caleb or Ted?
Talk a little bit about the style houses you're going to be building. Come up, talk. Thanks. Is it going to be similar to the style houses you have in Old Trail, or are these going to be smaller?
The last plan I've done was Thompsonville Road, Juniper Woods, and we have 3,300 square foot houses with 3-car garages, similar to Stonehenge, similar to Old Trail.
Okay.
I would expect to be a similar product here.
Similar size.
Yeah.
this is going to be done in 2 phases. Phase 1 would be the
larger side with the double cul-de-sac splitting off at the top end of the screen here.
Okay.
Yeah. And then phase 2 is the other side with the temporary cul-de-sac to the adjacent property.
We started this over 3.5 years ago. It's in the high-quality watershed which goes to Canonsburg Dam, and I've been developing and building since 1957. I've never been out of lots in that length of time. Right now I'm out of lots because I planned ahead, and I figured 1 year I would be able to get this plan approved, and here we are 3.5 years later, still waiting.
You're going to you still need some time after we approve this tonight? So how long before you break ground?
We have final approval ready.
Okay, you're ready now.
I have it scheduled that my developer that moves the dirt, put the sewers in, he's finishing one job right now on Water Dam near the Little Lake Theater, and he's ready to come to my property.
Now, are you going to be the only builder here, or are you going to have other builders?
I usually have 1 or 2 other builders.
He's probably met all the stuff. He's probably met all the requirements. There were no variances. There were no.
Lot size, open space, connections, sewers, utilities, all of our requirements of the conservation residential overlay.
Okay.
Buffers.
The smaller lots that we have, and I think I need to answer this question, but for the smaller lots, ones that are like 0.25 or whatever, is there anything that requires, and like of that 0.25 or whatever, to be all, or I'll call usable space, just with, or is it, can that include like the slopes that go down?
It can.
the slopes that go
It can.
up?
And we try to avoid that as best we can, just for practicality purposes,
Right.
because we recognize that after Mr. Taylor builds a house here, people are going to want to come in and make their own improvements, do their
Right.
own things to the property, pools, sheds, detached structures, the whole kit and caboodle. So we try to, and that's to Mr. Taylor's behoovement too, to have the most buildable piece of
Yeah.
property available.
Okay. All right.
Any other planning commission comments? Need a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that the planning commission recommend approval of the Lutz Farm final plan as outlined in the May 6th memo, along with the 12 conditions noted in the memo.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, good luck to you, Jay. Good luck.
Ted, how are you?